Okay, so what we want to be able to do now, I might zoom in a little bit, and in fact what I could do is move around as I do the different sections. I might not want my grid showing at all, so if I take that off and redraw, it gets rid of all the little dots, so I'm just left with a picture of my original map. I'm on my drawing layer. What I want to be able to do is I want to be able to draw the roads, and I want to be able to draw areas like this green, a kind of parkland or river. So the main things on a map I want to be able to draw, and I want to be able to put colour into them. So for instance, this old Cleveland Road here is in yellow, and if I look at it, that's basically a sealed sort of shape. So up till now we've kind of used things like the line drawing tools, but what we can do now is use this one over here called path, and under path there's two different ones I want to use. So either this one, which is a closed polyline, or this one, which is a closed Bezier curve. Now the difference is to do with whether they're straight-ish lines or curved lines. So I'm going to choose this one first of all, the polyline one, and I'm going to have a go at this old Cleveland Road. So all I need to do really is to randomly along the line pick some spots and try and make sure I keep as close to the actual map as I can. And I'm going to retrace over this area, and when I get to the final stage, all I need to do is a right mouse click and it will join the whole thing up. Now if I draw it this way using the polyline tool, it means that I can then fill it as a shape. If I use single lines and join things together, so I'm towards the end now, and what I'm going to do is press the right mouse button and it joins those two things up. So what I can do now is I can select this shape and I can fill it with a colour of some sort. So I'm going to go for a solid. I'll stick with the same sort of colours that they're using, so go for a yellowy kind of colour and say OK. And as you can see now, it's selected that shape and it's put it in there. What I might do now is just label this road. So we know this one's Old Cleveland Road, so I can choose my ABC tool, roughly click. In fact, I'm going to zoom in before I do that. I'll just get to a spot where I want to put it. Type in the name. And under settings, I've got all different choices of types of letters, and whether I go for typographical size or actual height doesn't really matter. I'm going to stick with Arial, and I'm going to go for Arial bold at the time, and I'm going to click OK and see what that comes out looking like. So that's quite nice and solid. It's a bit on the big side, so I'm going to grab it up and I'm going to shrink it down a little bit first by holding Shift and dragging. When I get it to a more suitable size, I'm just going to rotate it a little bit to get it into the space a bit better, a tiny bit more, and I'm going to rotate that around a little bit and move it. Okay, so that's not too bad. Let's just zoom back out. I've got the picture selected, so I'll click off that. Something else you might want to look at is how you do curved lines. So if we look at a curved line somewhere, what will be a good one? Maybe this blue line here, which is part of the river. So I'll zoom in a little bit on that one so we can see it a bit more clearly. This time I'm going to use a different tool. I'm going to go for this one here. I'm going to go for the Bezier curve line. Now this puts in anchor points, so every time I click it'll put a new anchor point in. So this allows me now with the curves to try and, as best I can, follow the actual shape of the curves. And in the same way, when I get to the end, it's going to allow me to basically right mouse click and join the two endpoints together. Now if there's bits like this where it's flat, then maybe use more than one point. The further apart you click, the bigger the curve it puts on. So you might want to use lots of small curves rather than big curves that are harder to edit. We can afterwards go in and edit any of these anchor points, which I'll show you in a moment as well. Nearly there. And I'm going to right mouse click and join the whole thing together. So now that's one continuous shape. So in the same way as I did before, I can select this object now and I can fill it with colour. This time we need to use a blue kind of colour. None of those are that good. I'll go for that one. I could go for custom colours and get one that's a bit lighter, maybe something like that. Say OK and use that one instead. So that'll fill that colour in for me. Now what I was saying about editing is if I decided that this line had some bits that were quite not quite right, we can actually go into the properties of it. Sorry, not that line color property. We go to the edit properties, and you can see here the little anchor points. So the orange ones are the actual point where I clicked, and the yellow ones are the handles that affect the curve of that between the next one to one orange point to the next orange point. So there's two ways you can edit this afterwards if it doesn't look quite right. When you're happy with that, you just end the edit, and you can zoom back again to see what that would look like. And again, remember, at any point you can go into your layers and you can switch off the visibility on your Google Map layer and come back and you can have a look and see how your drawing's beginning to progress. But you obviously need to have this switched visible so that you can actually do the tracing.